Hello friends, today's topic is prison life part 2. Let's rant.
The difference between prison rules and prison culture. Let's get into it. Prison rules are what is established by the prison administration, staff, correctional officers, warden, etc. It's typically what is introduced to you in the form of a handbook and orientation when you get transferred into a new prison. These are the rules that they enforce by writing institutional infractions and giving you charges that could impact your release date, visitation status, and more if you do not abide by said written rules and regulations. Some are more serious than others. For example, arguing with a CO could get you a charge, but fighting with the CO is definitely getting you sent to the hole, and you could also get a street charge. Those are prison rules. But now let's get into prison culture and why that's different. Prison culture is what is established in every single dorm, prison, housing unit, etc. by the prisoners, not the staff or administration. They have their own rules and regulations, culture, etc. that you live by within that housing unit. In every prison, typically in every dorm, the phones, the showers, the kiosks, everything is ran in a system within a certain structure that's established by the prisoners that are housed within that housing unit. Some of these rules that are put in place that I guess represent the prison culture or the culture of that dorm, etc., have been there for years. So yes, somebody's gonna probably say, well, can't I just go against the grain and not move how the dorm is moving? You could, but I guarantee it, you're gonna run into some static. Let me give you an example. In most prisons, the wall phones are controlled by cars, cities, gangs, etc., whatever you want to call it. And of course, that's against prison rules, but due to the prison culture, that's just how it goes. So when you walk into a dorm, typically, if you're somebody that uses the wall phone, you ask, how do they run the phones in here? It's a legit question. And to the people that say, I ain't asking nobody none, I'm just going to use the phone. You can do that. But the problem is most phones is attached to a car that's controlling it. That's going to be like an 8-on-1 situation. Yes, it sucks. It shouldn't be like that. But I'm just giving you an example of prison culture versus prison rules. I've been in some prisons and institutions where even the showers were ran with a certain structure. The Christians had it at one time, the Muslims had it at one time, etc., etc. And it was adhered by the prisoners, not because it was a prison rule, but because it was part of the prison culture that was established by the guys that were in that dorm. So that's a very basic breakdown of prison rules versus prison culture. And at the end of the day, how there's rules and regulations within prison. It's a very structured environment where consequences reign supreme. Overall, the moral of the story is to avoid all of that. Stay free. Peace.
One of the biggest misconceptions I've noticed people have about people that do a lot of time locked up is that they walk out of prison the same way they walked in. I went to prison at 19 and came home at 40. And when people would say things like, well, you're still like a 19-year-old, that is an extremely misconception and misunderstanding about what prison life is like. Life is ever evolving. It doesn't matter where you are at. It can be prison, it can be the military, it can be a monastery. This is a hot take, but I honestly believe this from my experience and observation that people are developing in prison better than they are out here in the world. The free world is doing more damage to people than prison culture is. One of the things that have really shocked me when I came home was how toxic the free world had become. Not only has toxicity reached a point where it permeates throughout the culture, but people are attracted to it. I've encountered a lot of women since I've been home, and one of the things that I notice is that toxic traits within men have become attracted to some. They like that shit. You don't walk out of prison the same way you walked in. Now, you can walk out a more counterproductive person than walked in. When I hear people say things like, oh, you walked out of prison basically a 19-year-old, not only is that disrespectful, it's a clear indication they don't understand how human nature works. And honestly, people that have done an extended amount of time in prison need to be more concerned with people that have developed in the free world than people in the free world need to be concerned about people that have developed in prison.
If you or somebody you know is serving a life sentence in prison, please watch the rest of this video. Alright, so check it. Did you know that if you are serving a life sentence in prison and something happens to you where they have to resuscitate you, meaning bring you back to life in some way, that means they also have to release you from prison because you have technically served your life sentence. Yes, if you're serving a life sentence and die in the prison and they resuscitate you, they have to also release you from prison because you have served your life sentence. Now, it doesn't work if you're serving anything beyond a life sentence. If it's a double life, triple life, you can't die 3 times. They're not going to allow it. I mean, they probably won't bring you back, period. But if they do bring you back, just know, baby, you finna be up out of there. Okay, enjoy the rest.
So Dante Kyle says that black culture is prison culture and prison culture is black culture. He roots his argument on his Grits and Eggs podcast in the fact that obviously the black community is over-policed and all of these things, and that a large percentage of the way that we move and the way that we act is influenced from prison. Prison influences the streets, and the streets now currently influence civilians. My argument is simply this. To be realistic with this, I think that what is not discussed enough is the fact that in 2025, we now have the power to change a lot of these structural narratives. We now have the power to alter and destroy the school to prison pipeline. The crux of what makes the YT system so oppressive and successful in its oppression is it's rooted in the destruction and the deconstruction of the nuclear black family. I've said this for years. I will continue to say it. Black men, when you lay down with a woman and produce a child with a woman, that is God giving you a license to influence a child, to influence another human being's life from the day they're born. That is one of the greatest, if not the greatest responsibility that we can have. Black women, this applies to you guys as well. Therefore, it is up to us to be very selective and direct when we have children. The more we create unstable environments and the more we perpetuate unstable environments and make that the norm by having baby showers instead of weddings, by having gender reveals instead of wedding invitations being sent out, we normalize the school to prison pipeline. We normalize this idea that a black child will not be successful except they pursue a degree in entertainment or athletics, which is essentially just another form of entertainment. This whole notion that black people are only locked into these specified niches and windows is because black people want to be seen. How we perceive, we care more about how we are perceived rather than what we receive. Because if we ain't receiving no land grants, if we're not receiving no money, if we're not receiving the things that are actually of tangible, legitimate value, guess who's winning? The white oppressor that we're talking about. The oppressor, we're doing their work for them by continuing to perpetuate dysfunction. And that is the crux and the Achilles heel of the school to prison pipeline. It hinges, the success of the SPP school prison pipeline it hinges on the success of incompetent people making incompetent decisions to set up generations for failure rather than success. That is not a fault of women in full, by the way. That is largely a fault of our men. Women, y'all have to start having enough self-esteem to not give ain't shit niggas children. A lot of people, I heard a woman say this recently on a podcast as well, a lot of these women today have these babies because they feel sorry for themselves. A lot of these women have love misplacement issues where they want love so bad they will carry the child of a man that doesn't deserve to be a father, because all men don't deserve it. All men don't deserve access to your draws. And gentlemen, all women don't deserve access to your baby gravy. Pause. They don't. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. But we practice our culture is predominantly practicing non-safe sex, bad decision making, and poor coochie management. You practice all of those different things in conjunction, you're not going to have any sort of a stable society that is rooted in anything with objective reality. Because we are a feel-good, F the facts moving community. And when it's time to place blame, I place the blame on the person on the entity that has had more socioeconomic, economic, and political power. That is not black women. That is black men. Period. Point blank. End of story. Black men have had more political, economic, and socioeconomic power than black women have had for our entire existence. It is time for us, gentlemen, to start monitoring what we do. Because when we stop monitoring what we do, chaos will ensue. Period, point blank, end of story. We can end every issue that exists in the black community within 1.5 generations, but it requires us putting each other over everyone else first and foremost. If we do that and do it well, we'll be all right. Otherwise, we're going to continue the same gender war, nonsensical BS. I keep telling black people that it is no secret at all that we were at our strongest in the black community when we were led by religion. The civil rights movement was led by religious fanatics. Dr. King was caught up with getting in good trouble. Malcolm X was caught up with getting in good trouble because they feared God rather than man. It's that simple. And if you've made it this far in the video, go back and tell me who led the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, A. Philip Randolph, Walter Reuther, Jesse Jackson, Billy Kyle. These were preachers moving with purpose, not people pushing just a narrative.
Going to jail anytime soon? Not me. Comment down below and tell me what you think. Thank you for watching. Until next time.